Hello and welcome. You're watching Business Today Television. I'm Sakshi Batra and this is a special edition where our focus is going to be to find out how are salary hikes projected for the year 2024. Now, if you're somebody who's been deriving salaries from your employers, then this is a video that you should definitely watch. Why I'm saying this is because AON India has announced its 30th annual salary increase and turnover study of 2023-2024, which has spanned 1,400 participating organizations across 45 industries. And this survey can actually give you a glimpse of what the salary hikes could be at in this new year 2024. Joining in to discuss some of the key insights from this annual survey is the top management of the company. Rupang Chaudhary joins in. He's a partner talent solutions from AON India. Welcome, Rupang, and thank you so much for taking the time out for this discussion. This is always something that all our viewers who are largely from the salaried class background are interested in knowing as to which way are the salary hikes really headed. Now, the headline that you mentioned is that 9.5% is the growth at which that you see salary hikes panning out for this 2024 on an average. However, this could be a slight drop from the 9.7% increase that we saw in 2023. List out for us what could be the key reasons for this marginal blip coming around.
Sure, Sakshi, and thank you for having me here. Last year was 9.7%, which was coming down from the 10% number that we had seen in 2022 when we were coming at the back of the pandemic and a lot of hiring and attrition was happening. This year, the number is slightly down because of a variety of reasons. If you look at the services sector, many of the industries in that segment, largely driven by technology, IT services, ITC services, and consulting platform, they have taken a bit of a dip given the kind of sentiment we are seeing in the industry per se. Hiring is down, business sentiment is down, and as a result, in those tech organizations, even the increments are down. In the previous years, the tech sector had really been responsible for a big jump in the increment. Even if you look at some of the other services segments like retail, e-commerce, startups, even they are showing a bit of a lower projection. On the other hand, if you look at more of the old world and more manufacturing oriented sectors like real estate, like manufacturing engineering, like FMCG, life sciences, they have largely remained stable or are giving a slightly higher increase. So it's sort of been offset by the decline in numbers from the services sector. And as a result, the numbers are slightly down, not very down. But this is largely reflective of the variation we are seeing in the sentiment in the manufacturing sector as also in the services sector.
Enough. So it's the services sector where the problem could arise from. The manufacturing sector is a buzz, and that is the space where we're seeing continuous hikes in the projections which are on the positive side. We will get down to details of this in terms of the sectors and of course the management levels as well, which we always discuss. But first tell me, what is the macro environment really looking like? Because you study the entire APAC division as well. How is the entire tailwind versus headwind really positioned at this point in time? And what are the things or the factors that could determine the salary hikes this year?
Sure. So if you look at the larger APAC outlook, overall, the Asia Pacific number for the salary increments is around about 4.1%, and inflation is around about 5.4%. But the actual thing is that when it comes to salary increases, India is certainly leading the way. I think even if you look at some of the other emerging economies like Indonesia or Malaysia, Philippines, they're all in the range of 5 to 6%. India at 9.5% is much higher. The other advantage that India has, of course, is the highest GDP growth that we are seeing in this entire APAC segment. So higher GDP growth, higher salary increments, and also I think because inflation has been contained, in the last few months, and we are looking at around about 4.6% number, that has helped the real wage also go up. So as a result, if you look at the actual increase, which is nothing but your salary increase adjusted for your inflation, I think that also has shot up to 4.9% for India,
Okay.
which is amongst the highest in the last 5 years, if you look at the Indian economic scenario.
Okay. So, in terms of sectors, which are the sectors that project a robust picture when it comes to salary hikes, and where do you see things still in a troublesome zone?
So as I said, I think there are two parts to this. If you are looking at the services sector, we are seeing a bit of a dip. So as I mentioned, e-commerce, tech consulting and services, global capability centers, financial services, retail, they seem to be looking at a lower number for this
Okay.
year. But if you look at manufacturing-led industry like FMCG, life sciences, chemicals, engineering, auto. Auto is a little down, but most of the other sectors are either the same or they are actually a little higher. That's one part. Secondly, I think sectors which are strongly linked to global headwinds and the global recession obviously looming, right? For example, again, you have ITES or IT or financial services, they are more impacted. But sectors which are more driven by domestic demand and spending, which is again FMCG, pharma, life sciences, engineering, manufacturing, auto, seem to have done better and obviously are looking at a more positive sentiment when it comes to salary projections.
Okay. And when we talk about the salary increases by level of management, how do you see that diversifying during 2024?
So I think that has remained to be the same. We've always seen that the salary increases at the junior management level are the highest because the base is low and also the attrition ends up being the highest here. So at the junior management level, we are looking at a 9.9% projection for increment. Middle management is somewhere in between, it's 9.4%, and top and senior management is usually the lowest out of the three. It is at 9.1%. But even these numbers itself are reasonably high. In the past, we have seen variations of junior management being 10 and senior being 7, 8. That's not the case. They're all three in the 9% range, but junior management is amongst the highest at almost 10%.
Okay. The good part is that attrition seems to be easing down as well. What is the current trend looking like, and when do we actually go back to the previous comfortable attrition levels that we had looked at before COVID started?
So I think we are not too far from there. I think if you look at the pre-COVID levels of attrition, we were hovering around about 15.5 to 16%. The whole period between 2015 to 2019 was around about 16.5%. I think attrition shot up in 21 and 22, largely because what we saw as a great resignation and the great churn driven by the tech sector when the numbers crossed 21%. They're back to 18.7%. So not yet at the 16% mark that we saw pre-COVID, but it's a fairly sharp come down from what we had seen last year, largely on the back of lesser hiring happening in the IT sector. Also, some of the services sector that I spoke about are hiring lesser. We are seeing more hiring happening in, let's say, hospitality, retail, QSR, sectors which couldn't hire for a long time because of the COVID. My sense is that we might come down to 16.5, 17% in the next 18 months or so as things continue to sort of cool down and we see more stability in business sentiment coming in and more sectors trying to look at more sustained growth than rampant hiring and volatility in their supply demand.
Rupank, since you talk about the services led slight dip or blip that we are looking at currently, Of course, there is the world economic slowdown, which is one of the key factors there. I want to ask you, what is the impact of AI, Gen AI, that's become the hottest topic of discussion over the last 6 months odd, for sure. Tell us, what is the impact of that on hiring, especially when we talk about the tech industry, the services space?
So that's an interesting point, because what has happened is that hot skills continue to be hot, and they've always commanded a premium. They've always been paid more. Now, when attrition was very high and salary increases were also very high, it was very difficult for companies to hire this sort of talent because it was extremely expensive. Uh, but now, what has happened now is that with attrition cooling down and people not moving jobs as much, salary increase not being very high, many companies who could not afford this critical talent around AI, machine learning, data science, right, which have really become hot skills, are able to afford these. And these are not commanding such a high premium as they were in the past. So I think many companies are looking to strategically buy talent now for critical skills, which they could not afford in the past. So that's certainly, I think, one part. The other thing that is happening is that with attrition cooling down and the chaos around hiring and trying to throw money at people slowing down, people are using the same budgets for investments, trying to upskill or develop those skills in house. So if I'm smart enough, I realize that
Yeah.
this is a cyclical thing. We might be hit by the same attrition and chaos in the next 2, 3 years. Might as well invest in those skills right now and be ready when the time comes, so that you don't have to go out and buy that talent at very high rates.
Okay. Why I'm also asking you about these things and also the world order is because, we are getting into a year where at least 40, 50 countries will be going into elections as well. The entire scenario is going to be politically driven as well across the world, that is. Any impact of that do you see?
Not really. I think even in the past, we have seen that, in any such years, I don't think there's been any drastic change in salary increases, salary, numbers looking different. I think whatever will impact the salary increments is largely going to be dependent on how insulated India remains from the clouds of global recession, which are obviously continuing to come towards us. How soon does the tech sector recover? I think those will play a much larger and more important role
Okay.
in what the numbers look like than anything else.
Okay, we've had 2 consecutive years where the salary hike projection on an average has been declining from 10% to 9.7% and now 9.5. When do you see double-digit, number coming back?
So honestly, if you look at the pre-pandemic level, we were very happily comfortable at a 9.5%. It's only the pandemic-induced slowdown which led to pent-up demand, which took the numbers back to 10%. Otherwise, there was no reason for that 10% to come about, right? Because we went about excessive hiring and so on and so forth. So honestly, I think we are coming back to the pre-COVID levels of the 9.5% number. That's where I see the numbers tend to stabilize in the next few years, unless there is some drastic change, which will change the whole landscape. Our sense is that the numbers are going to be around the 9.5 percent mark over the next couple of years.
All right. Well, on that note, Rupang, many thanks for being with us and taking all those questions with respect to salary hikes and projections across the industry as well. All the very best to you, and we shall have you back on Business Today when you come out with your next survey. Many thanks.
Thank you so much, Sakshi. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we wrap up this special conversation with Rupang Chaudhary, the partner of Talent Solutions at AON India. And of course, the salary projections at 9.5%, a slight blip from last year. But it's the services-led slowdown that you're looking at, which has offset the kind of gains that you're looking at in the traditional sectors like the manufacturing sector this time around as well. We will talk about more such interesting conversations and bring you all of those on Business Today. So do stay tuned.